Welcome to part 2 in this Paltalk tutorial series. We've hooked up with Autopilot today on TeamViewer, and he's going to show us how to do a demonstration with his Paltalk room selector. So what he's doing now is just set up a new project. He's setting it to any CPU and setting it to Windows 32 architecture. He's saving it out there, and he'll copy over the Paltalk PalRoomSelector.dll and the module into the new project file. So that's a new project file, as you can see there. And this is the Paltalk room selector and the module that he'll be copying over, which he does there. Now once he has this in there, he's going to have to make a reference, which he does now by right clicking and add existing item. He will select the module. This is what we'll be modifying a little bit. And he also has to add a reference to the DLL that he'll be using. So you'll click Browse and select the Paltalk room selector. And once he's added that, he's going to add it to his tool component as a component by choosing toolbars there, toolbar items. And then now that he's added a reference to it, he should be able to find it here in the list. And if he doesn't, he just browse and open it there. Now it should be in there. So he's ticked that off and it should be on his toolbar. So he's come down and he's selected the Paltalk room selector component or tool or whatever you want to call it. While he's got that selected, he'll set some anchor points. So when he stretches the form out, it will stretch with it. And now he'll have to, he's just added some code here. Instead of typing it out, he's just already pre-typed this out. So he's just copying that across. Basically, when the form loads, it will load up any Windows, Paltalk Windows that's open. But he has to set the handle by their class name. So he's added the class name in there, and the Paltalk room selector that he's added to the form there should pick up all the rooms that are available, Paltalk rooms, based on that class name. And he doesn't have Paltalk open. We'll shut that down, he'll open up Paltalk and try it again. So now Paltalk's open. As you can see, the room is in the Paltalk room selector combo box. So now we have that working. He's going to move over to the module that he included and modify it slightly to include Chike's method of getDialogControlID. Using that, we're going to have to call some APIs called getDialogControlID and isWindowVisible and declare it in that area there. So to do that, you will head over to pinvoke, which everyone should get familiar with if you're programming with .NET, and copy the VB signature and add it to his module. So that's getDialogControlID. The other one he's going to have to add is isWindowVisible. This will determine if it's a visible window, basically, as the name says. And he will use that in his enumeration function. So he's copied the VB signature and he's going to put it into his module. He can remove the shared, that part where it says shared function. That's if you have it on the main form. because this is in a module, that can be removed. So he'll go down to his class here, which is the search data, and add another item in there. As he's adding the dialog control ID now. And this will just hold, when it enumerates through the windows, it will hold the value that it returns when he calls that API that he just copied over in the declarations there. So now that he's added that, he's going down to the enum child function. He's going to copy that and make a new function based on that. So he's paste that, and it's enumerate child by control ID. Now that he has that, he'll just modify this bit of code a little bit. And one of the things you'll notice with Autopilot, he always comments his code. It's very useful. You know, if you're not sure what's going on, you can look at the comments and you'll know what's going on straight away. So just get used to it if you're going to do some coding. I mean, really, there's only like 3 or 4 lines of code there, and the rest is comments. That's fine. That's what you should be doing. So he's got if data control ID equals, and then he'll call the new API that we've declared, equals the handle. So what this is basically doing is for each handle that's coming into the function here, when you're calling enum child windows, it will return a handle for each child window that it goes through and pass it to this function. And so what he's using is get dialog control ID function on the handle that's being passed to it and comparing if it's the same as the control ID in his data, which is his search data class that we just added. So now he's checking if that condition is true and it's met, checking now if the window is visible for that handle, and if it is, we can do something with it. So he's setting the handle into his search record, which is called data. So now his data holds a control ID and the handle matching that control ID, only doing that if the window is visible. He's returned 1 there, it should be 0. And then we have 0. Meaning that it will stop enumerating through the child windows because we found what we're looking for, so we don't need to continue. If it hasn't found what we're looking for, then it returns 1 and we continue, hence if statements. So now that's done, he'll go back up here. He's selecting get child and he's copying that. Pasting that and changing the input values. because now it will need to be the same to account for the new control ID. So when it says get child, you'll need to input a control ID. It's basically setting up his search data class. So now the new control ID equals the new inputted value. Then down here he is setting he's just changing it to the Enum child windows that we had before, the one that is copied. So it's another function, the one that we just edited before. But he's edited the input values to include control dialog ID or dialog control ID. So now he's calling once again that new function that we did. So now he's done that, we can go back to the main form where our code is and include the constant values of the control dialog ID, which we can use SPY to get, which he'll demonstrate here in a minute. It's a constant value, and he'll set it to 0 at the moment and demonstrate how you can get those dialog control ID values. So he's going to need one for the incoming text. He's also going to need one for the outgoing text. And basically what this is, when it goes, like I said before, when it goes through the enumeration function that you pass to enumerate child windows, in that function it will check each handle to see if the dialog control ID matches the one that has been set. For example, if it wants to match incoming text, he will set that constant here, the integer value, and if it matches that value, then you're on the right handle. But it also has to match the condition, is the window visible? And as you see here, he started up handle SPY, and he's going to drag and drop that over to the main window there, and as you can see, the dialog control ID shows as 202. So that's his first one. I'll go back here again. The outgoing text where we type, so 203. And finally, nick list. 1789. So we're nearly there. Once we have all that, we can go ahead and add some text box, hold the handles that gets returned. Add a few labels here. So I'm just going to speed this up a little bit, save a bit of time. Okay, so now that he has his text boxes and labels added to the form, we just add a button and we'll go to the on button click event. We'll be renaming it first. Always good practice to name your components that you put on your form. Just don't leave them at the default, because after a while when you start adding more and more and more, you get confused. So anyway, we go to an on-click event, and the on-click event is pretty simple. We'll be calling his function here. So the text is going to equal getChild, and remember in the getChild function there, it called Enum child windows. You can't see that, so all you have to do is pass to this one is the chat room class, the selector that's been selected, and of course the ID, which is a constant now. So to recap, the text, this getChild function that he's created in his module here, returns the handle to whatever you've been put in there. So he's put in there the chat room class, he's put in there his selected room name from the control room selector, and the incoming text control ID, which is the ID that we've set up as constants. So he's doing the exact same thing for the next one. Now it does return an integer, so he has to do 2 strings. So luckily .NET has this conversion where you can just do that. And finally the last one for the nick list. So now he's running the project, selecting the room, hitting the button, and just to verify they are returning the correct handles, it's going to use the handle spy there to make sure. And as you can see, the same handles. And the nick list. So now we know that's all working, and hopefully you shouldn't have any problem. You can download PalRoomSelector.dll and the module from the website. which will be in the link below. And that's about it. We'll see you next time.